In my discussion with the chief director of the ministry, Mamli, supported by her able staff, it was my desire and intention that this forum will be an open forum so that I would learn and hear from you stakeholders in a very free and open manner. What is it that is affecting and challenging the delivery of quality secondary education? I look forward, as they look forward, to working with you. But even before I go into my formal address, let me attempt to respond to some of the key major issues raised by the president of CHAS. And one of it is when he intelligently stated that, Minister, you and GES treat us with compassion. I expect that you also treat our students with compassion. And therefore, by extension, let me assure you that not just my training as a lawyer, but my moral upbringing, I'll be guided by what the lawyers call the Odi Oterem Pattern Rule. I'm a strict religious adherence to the rule of natural justice. And therefore, none of you will suffer without being hurt. It will not happen. None. None. So expect that the rules of natural justice will be at play. But extend same to the wards and students. Give them fairness, give them justice. That is what we expect of you. And be assured again, when the administrator of the GET Fund was speaking, I brought him for two reasons. The other two reasons he knows, the other reason I'm still keeping to my chest, so that he will hear that you are in dire need of furniture. Then I can direct him to go and take the necessary steps to procure furniture to support CHAS and all its institutions. So not just furniture, but textbooks. That when the Director General and his men make a determination, you will subject it through, as for Reverend Stephen, procurement. The politician in me, I'll strictly, together with him, respect the procurement rules and laws of our country. But I will treat it as a national emergency under those circumstances to supply it. It is also my desire, but certainly not this year. This is President Mohammed's beginning of resetting Ghana, resetting the economy, and resetting the education sector. I've looked at the budget of the GET Fund, and I had some discussion with the president of CHAS. I know even in your offices, basic chairs, furniture, computer, you do not have. I know. The president of CHAS was able to relate to it. So sometime into the foreseeable future, and when I say foreseeable future, I mean beyond 2025. You don't say I'm just promising. We'll see what we can do. This year alone, Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the Ghana Education Trust Fund and the Minister of Finance have had to look for innovative ways to finance free senior high school. One of the immediate alternatives available to Excellency John Dramani Mahama was to depend on the GET Fund. After a careful examination of the GET Fund formula, I do not think that that funding mode is sustainable. We may do so at the peril of financing higher education and making adequate and sufficient provision into financing basic education. So as a country, I'm challenging Charles and the Ghanaian society that the country must continue in search of answers how to sustainably finance free senior high school. It was not for nothing that GET Fund was earmarked as an earmark fund to complement and not to supplement the financing of education. But as an immediate response for a government that has inherited enormous debt, over 748 billion in debt, in terms of commitment of public investment, over 3 billion US dollars, we needed to keep free senior high school running. That's why the President and the Minister of Finance have had to depend on capping and uncapping and making sure that resources are allocated for free senior high school. This year alone, there will be a dedicated 6.5 billion spent to get the free senior high school running. My request to the President and the Minister for Finance will be to continue to make free senior high school a candidate for annual budget funding amount of oil revenue. That's why I said there's been a policy change. But even the implementers and proponents who introduced free senior high school funded it from a portion of the annual budget funding amount. So decap or uncap GET Fund will still need to maintain some financing from the annual budget funding amount. And it will require, as I know, the review of legislation to make education part of the priority of government. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'm also minded and reminded by the President of Charles that you have outstanding arrears, outstanding financial obligations. The Ministry of Finance is in discussion with the bureaucrats at the Ministry of Education to verify and authenticate some of these arrears in order that in the next couple of weeks, some of it will be retired by way of payment and you get those arrears. I understand the Minister for Finance insisting that subject to audit. So we are awaiting the audit and then we will deal with it. I've also noted, and I'd like to respond to the matter raised by the President of Charles on your behalf, parent associations. He refused to even use PTA to communicate what he wants done. Ours is that we should strengthen the relationship between the schools and its management, and in particular parents, in order that you remain at the forefront of the moral, intellectual, and academic development of our wards. It is only a harmonious and cordial relationship that can deliver same. When I heard about the shooting incident in Kumasi, my immediate response was, this is un-Ghanaian. This is not Ghanaian. But it has happened in Ghana. The Director General of GES have issued some directives and instructions. He has our full policy support and approval to enforce those directives. And accordingly, President of Charles, you and your heads renew your inspectorate division. We all recall that when we were in secondary school, I'm sure I've seen two of my colleagues in secondary school upstairs here. Oye was my classmate. In fact, those days, if you were considered bright, you were forced into a class called Form 5C. So I was sent to Form 5C with him. Then some Pythagoras theorem and pinhole camera. discouraged me from wanting to pursue science and finding my way into the business class with Abu Mahama that I see upstairs. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is the desire and determination of President Mahama and the new NDC government to end the double track system. Your applause again manifests your disapproval of it because it affects the quality. Quality. Don't be afraid. Under this government, any member of CHAS, you can express yourself in a way that is fit, but in a manner which is polite. We will not take offense as a government. All we ask for is that be polite in your constructive criticisms of government and its actors, including me, but in a manner that is civil and polite and respectful. So you are guaranteed your freedoms to express yourself. Then digitalization of education holds the key to the future. But having listened to KA Technologies, I am not satisfied, and I should express it together with you, that next time we have to think through many of these initiatives, discuss it thoroughly with you, consult more with you before we deploy such infrastructure. But we'll try to work some of the wrongs in order to improve its delivery. I know that the charging systems are not in place. They are defective, and whoever was procuring it must have known that full and holistic procurement would have required that an efficient charging system was part of the procurement process. But the principle of a digital enabling staging system to modernize our education remains an imperative. We'll do what is appropriate in order to get it scaled up. I have also noted that even out of the 440,000, we are only boasting of some 293,000 that has been so distributed out of an expectation of 1.3 million tablets. Much more needs to be done in order to get it going. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen of CHAS, so in respect of the Ghanaian development of shooting in Kumasi, the Director General of the GES has the full support of government for you to strengthen your inspections. You know, that's when I went to my former schoolmates in Tamasco of blessed memory. Anytime we're in Tamakulo House and we're told that, I see one of them here, the headmaster of Bimbla Secondary. His father then was Dagbani Master. I make you up. I make you up. Anytime we heard Master Belko is coming, we are aware that the headmaster was coming to conduct an inspection, in order that guns, knives, and other violent tools and equipment are not found in our schools. You have the full support of government to initiate those inspections at the weekend. We have to nip it in the bud as early as possible and as practically as possible, in order that we allow for a serene, steady environment. This cannot be part of the training of a Ghanaian child. That is immoral, that is violent, that is not Ghanaian cultural. So we expect that you would look at those issues. We are working to revise curricula. An administrator of GET Fund, again, if government is to succeed in ending the double track system, so probably I know that your board, I'm working with Mamle to get your board sworn in not later than Monday, you should have a board so that all expenditures are properly approved by your board, so that the minister is not confused as if I'm taking over the role of your board. I am not the board. I'm only responsible for government policy. But at least policy guidance that next year you should identify one or two child schools for major infrastructure investment. So we expect that next year into your formula, you should have a dedicated formula that looks into expanded accommodation, expanded classroom infrastructure for a number of child schools so that you can increase your intake for purposes of supporting government to end the double track system. We expect that by end of year 2027, the double track system must be a thing of the past. And to those who think that we should heal double track system, and those who think it was only politically necessary because of inadequate infrastructure to support the noble dream of expanding access to secondary education. But the reduced contact hours between learners and teachers cannot be a desirable academic training model. It cannot be. And therefore, we all need to work together in order to reverse it. We undertook a national education forum. As we were told, the president on 18 February had the opportunity to open a national education forum for us to discuss the state and future of education in Ghana. From where I sit, between now and 2028, the education sector alone, if we are to respond to your needs, will require an investment of not less than $2.5 billion to get your infrastructure running. From preschool, through junior high school, through secondary education, into tertiary education. And there must be special attention for CHAS. I assure you for that. For one reason. Whilst the country expanded access to free senior high school, we did not commensurately expand infrastructure in your schools to deal with the exponential increases of the numbers from junior high school who ought to enjoy free senior high school. I'm sure the president of CHAS was polite when he cautiously only focused on furniture. I'm also aware that you need vehicles. I'm aware that you need vehicles. You need a number of buses for students and teachers who need to travel. Your laboratories and science centers are poor, inadequately equipped. You see, so again, I'm carrying my empty calabash to the Get Fund administrator. So Get Fund administrator, 2025, start of year of President Mahama, all the burdens is for takeoff. But the headwinds of CHAS is that make provision for some buses and for some pickup vehicles in your next formula, subject to your board approval. But not all of you will get it at the same time. But at least we will start. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Director General GS and Get Fund Administrator. You know, I'm a rural MP. I see the headmistress of one of my schools, Pagana, in your midst. And then also, Administrator of Get Fund, I'm sorry I'm overloading you, but just to expose my new experience, having come in as minister, and what we need to do well. I woke up one morning with many messages from the Member of Parliament from Tamale North, and it was that Northern School of Business, the roof taken off by storm. Then the next morning, Laboni Secondary School, I see headmistress here. Also, girls' dormitory gutted by fire. So my immediate response was Does the Ministry of Education have adequate budgetary allocation to respond to such national emergencies? If not, that can be fatal. Because one of the options available to the headmistress of Labone was to close down and ask the girls to return back and come back. So, Mr. Administrator, you have to escalate your emergency budget allocation in order to deal with such emergencies. And that you must do with the Chief Director of the Ministry of Education and the Free Senior High School and CHAS, in order that when those exigencies happen, we can have an immediate response to them. In fact, as I speak, I have more than 12 requests from members of parliament, especially including the area from Sandema, the MP for Bongo, up to northern, western north, the Honorable Samson Ahi. All of them, rain, storm, have affected schools. So we now have to think through. We now have to think through how to deal with those emergencies. And that I agree with the President of CHAS, Reverend Osu Secretary, that in this matter, procurement, you have to deal with a national emergency and you must do same. So happily, what this has done is that we don't pray for additional rainstorm, but Labone may get a new girls' dormitory. Nobisco may get a new girls' dormitory. There is a new initiative of ICT centers. But trust me, if we are able to get government to offload the stress and burden of GET Fund and give us additional financing from ABFA, you will see enormous improvement in your infrastructure in the coming years with Paul Ajay at the GET Fund Secretariat. We have to strengthen regional and district offices, especially the heads, to ensure leadership that translates into higher quality learning outcomes. We have to strengthen quality of basic education by targeting the entire learning environment, both curriculum, teaching, welfare, promotion issues, and assessment, and enhance the quality of strategies for implementing the free senior high school. So, free senior high school again, the elephant in the room. Not the elephant which is gone. And not the elephant that introduced it. We need to find a sustainable way to finance free senior high school. I intend to work to cabinet and to seek the president's approval to introduce a TVET, Technical Vocational Education Levy. Maybe in that thinking, I should also bring in an education levy so that we have dedicated financing that looks at what is affecting quality is insufficient funding of education, which affects teacher motivation, which affects matters of your promotion, which affects matters of the environment in which we study. But I have assured you that the West African Examination Council is working with the Ghana Education Service to reverse the calendar into a suitable time period so that Ghanaian students who pass out from senior high school do not have to wait for an additional year in order to join their counterparts elsewhere to access higher education. Even though this forum is for CHAS, we have to strengthen the relationship between CHAS and higher education. I'm currently undertaking an audit of the computerized school selection and placement system in order to address the matter of corruption in school placement. And therefore, we expect that there would be an improved computerized school selection and placement system that allows for an effective functional, not too much human interference in the placement system in order to eliminate corruption. So I invite more answers and more solutions from all of you. How do we work to improve quality as we implement the free senior high school initiative? From your perspective, what are the considerations that we should look at? And what should we do for the removal of the double track system to make this most effective for our schools? My final word before I assume my seat. I noticed Reverend was quite excited that there were timely release of resources from GES. Expect that the next one or two additional resources will be released by the GET Fund as soon as the board is sworn in.